helps if I turn the mic on. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, or good morning, wherever you are. Slightly slow getting started. Kids' bedtime stories finished about 6 minutes ago, and none of my streaming setup was set up, so bit of a dash getting everything else set up. And there is a non-zero chance that that door behind me will open at some point, and one of my kids will come in. And if that happens, well, I'll disappear, sort that out. Anyway, so I've got a couple of vague ideas what I'm going to do on today's stream. So we've got the 1.10 beta of Node-RED coming up, hopefully this week, hopefully in the next day or two. So this will be, if you remember in the 1.0 release, we did quite a few beta releases, and which really helped. Really was a good way of getting the new features out into a wider audience of the community, and got some really good feedback, and helped make sure when we did the final release it was a stable release that everyone was happy with. So we're going to do that again for 1.1. Can't imagine it'll be as many betas as we did for 1.0. It may even be just the one beta release. There's a few features, well, a few pull requests that haven't quite landed yet, which may or may not land in time for the beta, but they're definitely in the plan for 1.1. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. So with that, in my head, the 1.1 release is pretty much done, apart from this handful of small pull requests to wade through. And frankly, reviewing some of those pull requests would be a bit dull for a stream, because it's so the main pull requests outstanding are around adding lots of example flows to all the core nodes, which isn't going to be that interesting to wade through a review. I think there's something like 40 or 50 examples to wade through. Was it that many? I think so. Anyway, so not going to do that. So I took a look at the backlog and some other things that people have been talking about. So there's 1-2 things I'm just going to work through, features in the editor, see where we get to. It'd be nice to round them out to a pull request within this stream. It might be just in this hour or so, we just sort of explore this new feature and see where we get to. So let's see if I have got things set up right. Have I got Chrome anywhere? Right. So hopefully, I will say I'm going to try having the Twitch chat on screen, because some of the feedback I got from last time was, if you don't, when I back up the videos to YouTube, when you watch them back, if the chat isn't on screen, then you lose the context when I reply to questions in the chat. So trying out putting the chat on screen, we'll see how it works out. So let's find Chrome. I've got Chrome in entirely the wrong place at the moment. Let's bring Chrome over. Right, and close that window. As you can tell, I'm a little bit of disarray at the moment. So here we go. Node-RED, let's just pull. So one of the behind the curtain secrets here is I'm streaming from a different laptop to the one I do all my day-to-day work on, because this is a newer laptop and is far more capable for doing the streaming, which is goodness. But luckily, I remembered to sync my work to Git recently enough, so I've got everything up to date on here. So I'm in the dev branch, because that is where new stuff goes. If it gets to the point where we commit stuff, I will create a feature branch. But we use Grunt, and if you were with us last time I streamed, I spend my life, I run Node-RED using Grunt Dev, because it runs the build, continuously runs the build whenever I change source code, both for the editor, and it restarts the runtime whenever I change any of the runtime code. So we just kick that off in the background, and all is good. Now, let's see. If I switch over to Atom, so I'm getting confused now. There we go. Hey, Cami UK13, good to see you in the chat, and nice to know there's someone out there. Apparently there's 16 of you out there, so do say hi if you're there. Yeah, and let me know if I need to zoom in on anything or anything like that. I'm still experimenting with all the layouts here to make sure it all works. So here we have Node-RED. Again, if it wasn't clear, this is the 1.1 release, which will be in beta any day now, so things do look different. You've got the grouping feature, which is what that big yellow square is. We've got the new sidebar with its tree view, and info sidebar and help sidebar. So yeah, I'm not going to dwell on those. I sort of gave an introduction to those in last week's, or the stream 2 weeks ago. But what are we talking about today? So what we're going to do is, at the moment, there are a set of nodes: the catch node, the status node, the complete node, and the link node, that all have a common piece of user interface, in that they all, when you open them up, allow you to pick a node or multiple nodes from the workspace. So in the case of the catch, status, and complete nodes, they are showing a list of all the nodes from the current tab we're on. And in the case of the link nodes, it shows you a list of all of the a list of all the other link nodes that this link node can be connected to, but that can span other flows. What I'm going to do is I wanted to set up my workspace a little differently before we started, so I'm just going to copy. So I've got the link in and out nodes. I'm just going to come in here and copy some over here, copy some over here, just so I've got plenty of link nodes to play with. Hi guys in the chat. Yep, good to see you. So now when I list it, I've got quite a few more. And that's all well and good. And one of the challenges when we develop Node-RED is I have fairly modest workspaces in terms of how many nodes and how many things. But we know there are users out there who like to have dozens, if not hundreds, of tabs with thousands of nodes. So, some of the scale of some people's workspaces is quite scary. Perfectly valid. Just, it really makes you think about performance around, whenever we're displaying lists of things. So having this list of nodes now, it's showing the internally generated hex ID of each of those nodes. If you were doing this for real, you would hopefully name your link nodes to help you find them. But we know from experience, picking from a long list is not so helpful. So I'm going to look at adding, like we do in various places, like we have up in this search bar, a filter. So you can just search this list more easily for what you're looking for. Now, link nodes are a bit of a special case because they've got multiple flows, as in they display for multiple tabs. For the sake of right now, I think I'm actually going to stick with one of these other cases, like the catch node. So it's a nice simple list that we've got, and what we're going to do is add a filter box just to filter this view. I think that's what we're going to do. Um, Now, the reason I'm looking at that is some of the changes that have gone into 1.1 is around search. So, for those who are familiar with Node-RED, you'll know we already have the search dialog, and we have for some time, where you can search for stuff. And it does quite a nice job of indexing all of the nodes, and not just the node properties, well, not just the node itself, but its properties, its description. So you can actually, it's quite a powerful search. And it's fairly simple, but it searches a lot of things. When we added this new tree view in the side, and we wanted to add a filter, I realized effectively we were doing search again, but I didn't want to reinvent it. So what I did was I've added a core API, which taps into the search and gives you back search results. So useful for filtering lists as we do in the sidebar. But that's nice because if I do a search, because my project is just so empty, let's just add some stuff. So let's say message.topic equals foo there. Let's add I'm just adding in nodes that we want to find. So just hit deploy so we don't lose that. So now when I search for foo, it finds both the change node and the function node because both of them have a property that mentioned the word foo. One thing we added in 1.1 is this little arrow, which is to copy these search results or copy the search terms over to that sidebar. So when I click that, whatever I've searched appears here, and this list reflects the search. So that's useful if you want to search. If you're wanting to just do a quick search because you just want to find it and go to it, that's great. But we know there was also a use case someone wanted to do a search, get a list of results, and then spend time looking at each result. Ristomati, should the stream be 720p or is it just me? I don't know. I think I may have limited it to 720. Sorry if that makes it look a bit crappy. I'm not going to muck with those settings right now, but I will see if I can improve that for next time. So I was saying people want to be able to search, copy the search results into sidebar, and then spend time navigating those results, which you can now do. But the key point of all of this is there is now a standard API for doing search in the editor. So, like I said, unlike last time I did the stream where I had practiced and rehearsed what I was actually going to talk to you about, this time I'm sort of making it up a little as I go. So there's going to be a degree of fumbling around as I try and remember all this stuff. So here we are in the editor source tree. If you can make that out, we're under packages, node modules, @node-red, editor client, source, JavaScript or JS, UI, search. So this is the file that does this main search dropdown, but has now been now exposed this new function in it to actually do a search. Which I need to remind myself what that actually does. Okay, so it's pretty simple. So if I just switch back to Chrome, where's my Chrome window gone? Here we are. If I bring up DevTools, so we can do red.search and then a search term. So if I search for foo, red.search is not a function. Oh, yeah, red.search foo. And it gives us back those two nodes, the change node and the function node. And the search results themselves don't just give us back the node, they also give us back the label for the node, which is sort of pre-computed, what's the text to show for that node, as well as the index. The index is um, crudely, it tells you where in the node, for some random measure of where, the search term appeared. So, for example, if what I was searching for appeared in the label, in the name of the node, and it appeared at the start of one node and at the end of the name of a different node, well, the index would give me the clue that it started earlier in the one node versus the other. It's not infallible, but it does try to give a sense of prioritized search rather than just a simple the order they are discovered. It tries to give some sort of relevance. Having described it out loud, I suspect that could do with improving. Anyway, now, yeah. So I've been talking about this. So there is a different API available, which is what the nodes currently use. Let's bring up, which one are we going to use? Should we do it with the status node? So this is the status node. And in here, it builds up the list of the nodes that have been selected. So the first thing it does, so this is the code for the status nodes edit dialog. So status, so this edit dialog, and in particular when we go to selected nodes, and it shows us this list of nodes. So here's the code that does it, and effectively it starts here. So the search API is good when you want to do sort of text search for nodes. And again, this is where I'm now sort of thinking through a bit more about how to implement what we would like to implement. And I'm now sort of less certain as to whether the APIs we have are the right APIs. But red.nodes.filter nodes is a function that can return a list of all of the nodes based on some filter. And in this instance, we want its Z property, which is the Z is the tab it's on. So we want all of the nodes who are on the same tab as the node we're editing, which all makes sense. Now, one interesting point. No, that's not interesting. I won't distract myself with that. So that builds up that list. It then iterates over each one of those, basically works out, is this a node I've already got selected or not in this node's configuration, does a bunch of work to generate the text to show, and in fact we've got some utility functions I should drop in there rather than all this copy and pasted code. It then, right, so it's building up this list, or not even a list, it's building up this list of objects which are the available nodes. So the node, it's labeled to display, sub-label, won't worry about for the moment, selected, and checkbox. So is it currently selected, and we say we want it to be displayed with a checkbox. And then we pass it to the tree list. So tree list is one of the custom Node-RED widgets the editor provides, and a lot of work has gone into tree list in this release, partly because the outline sidebar is a tree list, so it's a lot more powerful than it was before. So if you're looking for a tree-like UI widget for your custom node, then you should have a look at tree list, or at least bug me to get the documentation updated so you can look at tree list, but the basics are there. Yeah, and so we add it to the tree list. Now the key thing is, what are we trying to do? We're trying to do a filter. So I've sort of spent 20 minutes building up to trying to think what we're actually doing. We're going to build up a tree list. So let's see. So Paul, having feed problems. Let me know, guys, if anyone's having trouble with the feed. I do have it. I've got the Twitch page open over here, and I've not noticed any streams. So it could be my uplink, or it could be your end. But yeah, let us know how it's coming through. So what we're going to do is, so one of the features in tree list that got added in 1.1 is the ability to filter the items in the tree list. So I'm going to bring up the tree list code because I can never remember. So this is a good tip for a lot of the common UI widgets we provide, which are in the source tree under UI common. Some are more reusable than others, but tree list is certainly one of the reusable ones. There is some amount of documentation in the source itself. I do make a point of trying to keep that up to date, even if I then fail to update the docs on the website. But what we have got is the ability to filter the tree list. So what I'm going to do, because I think this should work. So here we have our tree list of the status node, which I know has an ID of that, copied from the source code. And then what I should be able to do is call its filter function. And what that will do is it'll call that function for every item, and that function should return true or false to say whether the item should be shown or not. So in this example, just using the dev tools, I'm going to run it. Oh, let's make that a bit bigger. Hopefully you can see. I'm just going to run passive filter that's going to return true, so everything will still be visible, but it's going to print out all the items. So there we have all 10 items. Now, I think maybe for the sake of brevity, all that stuff I talked about, the search API and that sort of stuff, ignore that for now, because that's going to need a little bit. That doesn't quite give us what we need right now. What I'm going to do is simply look at the label property of each item and see whether it contains whatever search text we provide, and we'll get onto how that search text is provided in a moment. So let's say we wanted to, so if we look up here, too many, so we've got a bunch of stuff. Let's say we wanted just to see, let's say, the link nodes. So what we'll do is we can return, so as item.label, say index of, let's say our search term is ink because I've typed quickly and it's greater than -1. So that will return true if it matches, false if it doesn't. I run that, and now you can see in the window it's only showing me the ones that have the text ink. And then if I believe if I pass null to the filter function, it removes the filter and everything's visible again. So that's what we want to do. I mean, that's how easy it is using the tree list, using these reusable widgets to do things like filtering. So let's actually build up some UI to do this. And for consistency, we kind of want it to look like the search box we have over here. So here we are. So this is the node for those who aren't familiar with custom nodes, this is the HTML file for the node. It has a script tag containing the raw HTML template for the node. And you can see it has this data template name custom property that identifies the type of node that this is the template for. So we are looking for, right, so this div, this is the, I believe, hold on, let me, container div, tree list. Right, so this div, as I'm showing you here, let's make this bigger. That's the div that is that the tree list gets inserted into. So what I'm going to do for the moment is just add a text input. So now that you can tell this is live coding where I've not rehearsed it, so I'm actually having to think as I type. Give an ID of node input status target filter. Also my stream is now buffering, so I've no idea if that's my upstream or downstream. So I'm just going to ignore that and hope it sorts itself out. In fact, how are we doing for... Yeah, it looks like my uplink has just had a moment. Whether my wife's kicked Netflix in downstairs, I don't know. Anyway, just going to very crudely stick an input in. So the nice thing with running grunt dev is I've edited the HTML file, I've just hit Control-S to save it, and if I pull up what you wouldn't have seen, although the timestamp will be the clue, it's already restarted Node-RED. So reload. See, I foolishly just accidentally reloaded the string chat, so I've just lost the history. But hi to the guys in Minnesota, in Ecuador. So yeah, lots of people out there. What was I doing? Status node. And selected nodes. And there's my very crudely thumped into place input. You'll see the vertical spacing's all out of whack now. Again, we'll sort that out in a minute. If I find my right text. See, this is just all about slowly building these things up to make things look good. What we're going to do is use jQuery, select that text input, and this is where we use another one of our common widgets, the search box. So the search box, common widget, used in various places throughout the UI. Basically any input which has the little magnifying glass, whether it's the palette filter, the search filter, the quick add filter. So they are all instances of this search widget. And it just gives a nice consistent look and feel. I keep forgetting it's status node I'm working on, isn't it? Status node. So there you can see my input has sort of disappeared. It does sort of assume, it's from a UI perspective, it sort of dissolves into the container it's in. So we'll re-establish some of the UI around it in a minute. But you can see, let's put the search the magnifying glass there, and now a little close box to clear the filter. Okay, well that's goodness. Let's just remind myself how I sorted this one out. yeah. So we're just going to copy some CSS again. This isn't necessarily the most elegant way of doing it, but and this is how I do UIs. I just bash away using dev tools, get something that looks respectable. Oop, paste that in the wrong place, I think. Oh, let's reload. DevTools is great for just, if you want to explore the page, see what's going on, tinker around with this stuff without having to constantly edit your source code, reload, edit your source code, reload. Just dive in, muck around with the CSS, find something that works, experiment. Let's see, what have I got going on here? That all looks good, that all looks good. Okay, yeah. So I was just trying to see how I mucked around with the styles of that one. The fact that I'm now looking to reapply to get a similar look and feel as this custom version straight away makes me want to say, well, technically that means I need to make sure this needs to be a standard option. I shouldn't be making a special case of this one. Float right, and he's disappeared. Okay, let's not do it that way, let's do it. And the eternal playing around with, do I want to float it or do I want to set its position absolute with a top of -30. No idea where it's disappeared. Oh, it's disappeared off the top of the screen. So we want to set this guy's position to relative, and we're almost getting there. Set its right to 0. Oh, and doesn't that look nicer? Having a little filter over to this side. What do you think? Sort of a slightly smaller input than normal inputs. It's maybe if I bring it down slightly. I'll see if I start getting into pixel pushing, then we'll be here all night. Believe me, I'll stay up all night pixel pushing, but no need to bore you guys with it. From a UI perspective, I think that looks okay. Doesn't resize, don't really need it to resize. Okay, so next the trick is just to remember everything I've done to get that where I wanted it. So where was it? Here. And again, I am just throwing some stuff in here, whether it should be done CSS classes or what, who knows. Sometimes it's easier just to do it all in line. This needs to be position relative, so the absolute stuff did its thing. And then I needed to customize the CSS of this input after it had been applied. So create the search box and then set up some CSS for it. Now, yeah, okay, so there is an issue here. And that's to do with custom themes. So you would have seen we now have that nice dark theme contributed by the community. That was because of a lot of work that I did in 1.1 to basically use sans variables. Let's just quickly take a detour into custom themes. So in the CSS, we use SAS to generate the CSS. And in there, we have a colors file, which basically defines a whole bunch of variables that could be used throughout the CSS or the SAS when we generate it. And to create a custom theme, all you kind of need to do is to create a custom one of these files with all the custom colors you want. And then we provide a script that you can run that then generates the appropriate CSS with all the colors applied. So that's how the Midnight theme is done and how we make it easier for people to create custom themes. But all of that means is whenever I end up hard coding a color into a node's CSS, well, that's bad because that cannot be themed. So again, something else I'm going to have to do here is I think given I already want to have a small search box here with a different look and feel, and I want to match that look and feel here, is I'll add a flag to search box, and this will be like a standard option for search box. So rather than me having to muck around with all the CSS in line, which I'll do for the moment just to get things moving, we'll change it so that search box can just have like a style, I don't know, mini, or we'll come up with a name for it, and it will do the right thing, but more importantly, its CSS will then be themable. So at this point, what have we done? Let's just reload. I've lost track. Unknown status. That means I've screwed something up. Can't read. Unexpected token in the baggage area. Oh yeah, right in front of me. There. Let's try that again. Something else. If you run, if you have to debug Node-RED editor code, if you're using our pre-built version, it's all minified. And I haven't got around to sorting out source maps and things like that, which I really should investigate, just not got around to. If you use the grunt dev way of running in development mode, then it actually updates the source template to use the non-minified version of the source. It's still all concatenated into a single file, but you'll see over here it's red.js rather than red.min.js. So it does mean at least I can click in and see the code. But that's all by the by. Status node. Selected nodes. So there we have a filter looking somewhat respectable. I can type in, but it doesn't do anything yet. So let's hook it up to actually do something. So here we have where I turned that input into a search box, and this is where I go double check the source code of Works. I can't remember how I do all this stuff. Let's look at the outliner source code. There's a search box in here somewhere. Yeah. So we pass the search box two arguments, a delay and change function. So delay is how long after the last keystroke should it trigger the change function. So particularly in cases where your search might be an expensive operation, you don't necessarily want to be doing it after every single keystroke. So 300 milliseconds is a decent delay to give a to let the user type without us doing lots of needless triggering of events until they've paused. So that's what delay does, and then changes the function that we will call. It's a change listener effectively on the search box. I think why don't I use the change event? I can't remember why. There was a reason why I didn't. I let you specify a change function here rather than just set up a listener on the change event. There was a reason. I can't remember. It's a few years old. And yeah, I'm sure there's also a good reason why I don't pass in the current value. Anyway, this is the API. We live with it. So if we just console.log val, again, you know, for all the dev tools, step debugging and all that stuff, you can't beat just a console.log, an opportune point in your code. So if I type in hi Twitch, there you can see it's console.logged it. So we are almost hooked up. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim the value because we don't want to worry about white space. Then if val is blank, we're going to clear any filter that's on the tree list. So if you recall from earlier, we do that by calling the filter function and pass in null. Else we call tree list and we give it a function, and let's not call it view, let's call it item. And again, if you recall from earlier, each item has a label property, and we're just going to look to see whether item contains the value of val. In fact, we don't need an if, we can just return, because if it's greater than -1, it contains it. If not, we don't. Let's go have a look. Reload. Status, selected nodes. Now if I type inc, oh, we get an error. Oh, of course, stupid me. Right. Now I'm sure because there's a slight delay in the chat, someone is going to get to the chat first and point out I should have had item.label. Unfortunately, because there's the delay, I won't see that message until a couple minutes from now. Let's see. Where are we? Status node. Selected nodes. Let's search for inc. And there we have the ones that match. And we can click the X to clear it, and we're back. So that looks all right, doesn't it? Now, from a perfectionist point of view, that magnifying glass has dropped slightly. So the CSS I've done to this, I suspect I've done more of a CSS tweak up here, which I'm now want to go and, yeah, I can't just leave it like that. It looks horrible. Where is it? Yeah, the search icon. Yeah, see here, I've got a top set to 7. If I change that, you can see the magnifying glass sags very ungainly. Okay. Well, let's just go and do that quickly. Let's, you know, I said I would, so let's go search box. Now we've got, see, I've put myself on the spot as I've now got to name a property, and naming things is hard. So what we're going to do is say if is it this dot options? I can't remember now. Options is the magical thing, isn't it? Yes, this dot options. If this dot options dot style is mini, then what we're going to do is add another class. Search box. I'll call it a search box mini. Okay. And then let's go back to the status bar. Set its style to mini. I don't like that name. I'm going to change that name. I don't know what to, but Let's just stick with this for the moment. Yeah, so if it's mini, we're going to call it red UI search box mini. Go back to our CSS, search box CSS. And then if it's one of these, search box mini, what are the custom bits we want? So we had our sagging. We want FA times, not to sag. Out of interest, do I change this one as well? Oh no, I've just done FA times. Ooh, oh yeah, because I want FA search as well. So that will apply the correction to those guys, and then the other one was to the input itself. Oh, sorry, that was to the So if yeah, hopefully you're sort of following what I'm doing here, rather than hard code these CSS corrections, let the search box just define this new style so we can use it consistently. And you're right, yeah, Nathaniel, that's quite right. How you can filter out the context sidebar. This will be the pattern for doing that. Is that everything I need? Well, let's test it. So if we come back in here, back into the status box, we're going to get rid of this custom CSS because we don't need it anymore. Yeah, that's the only bit of custom CSS we no longer need. We set style to mini. Well, let's see. Reload. Status, selected nodes. Oh, no, that's better. Ooh. Now there's a bug. So you can see that you may be able to see on the stream when it has focus, the border is disappearing. So there's going to be another state we need to capture in our custom CSS, which is this one. So if it's that, or now do I put it? I can never remember. Does it go? Let's stick it down the end. That doesn't look right to me. Let's try that out. Status, selected nodes, have focus. Yeah, that looks good. And the times button. Oh, everything's looking very nice. Very good. So whilst I'm here, I'm going to go to the tab info outliner. There's its search box. And we're going to say style mini. Because again, we want this guy up here to match. Now I need to remember where his CSS is, because I can go get rid of tab info. Yeah, this all looks familiar, doesn't it? It's that stuff we no longer need. But just interested to see, I've got some other bits and pieces going on in its CSS, like background. Now you see that filter box does grow up to a maximum width. How does that look compared to, does that make sense to do over here? No, it's harder to do because they're absolute positioned, so I'm not going to faff with that stuff. Let's just reload, see. Yeah, he's all looking, I did save it, didn't I? Yeah. He's all looking good. But if you recall, the whole reason for doing the custom CSS class was to get rid of this hard-coded border. And I can't remember which border triple D is. Border colors, secondary border color. So I use the CSS value there, and just to show what that really does, if I change this CSS, if I change it to well, green and reload, you can start seeing lots of bits of where the secondary border crops up. And I seem to recall, let's see if I can do this live. You'll see in this file I have a bunch of commented out colours. You're going to force me to write some regular expressions now. Let's see. We want to capture everything. I'm just going to mutter under my breath whilst I remind myself of what I'm doing. Want all of those matching all of those, and then we're going to swap the two around because we're mean like that. Is that right? Yeah. So by doing that, letting the CSS rebuild, just look at this beautiful color scheme. But this was really handy when I was doing all the theming, just making sure we had a consistent pattern for where we used different colors, even if they ended up being quite similar. You can see all the very lurid color schemes throughout. Anyway, enough of that. And what's handy with that regex is I just run it again. It swaps all the colours back, and we can sleep again at night. Cool. So what have we done in summary? So in the search box, we've added this new mini style because we want to use it in more than one place, and we want to be able to theme it. So that's the search box there. And the status node, we've now added this search box that will make it easier to filter this list out. Cool. Now, before I go down the whole route of a pull request and things like that, I won't bore you with all of that live. But we'll look at adding that to the other nodes with the similar UI. Now, what I do intend to do at some point is, in fact, all of those nodes do share a lot of common features. You know, this having this table of nodes, being able to select from them, having this select button that lets you go in and actually select nodes in the workspace. You know, nice features, but there's a lot of duplicated code between those different node types, and this part of me thinks, well, we don't expect third-party nodes to want to be able to do that sort of thing. So is there value in it being a reusable component? Equally, it's going to be valuable just to reuse it for us to reuse it ourselves. Because as it stands, I've now got to go copy those few lines of code to the other nodes. Let's just see. So, oops, wrong one. 25 status HTML. Yeah, so after all that, in this hour, you know, I've added 13 lines of code, 14 lines of code to add that filter. Yeah, whereas a year ago, well, 3 months ago, TreeList didn't have this filter function. So, yeah, that's just pleasing to see how straightforward that is to add. if we go, where are we? Status. Let's look at the catch node. We just stick in exactly the same space. Catch target, and then there was a change up here as well. And we have to change this position relative. Yeah, I hope this was helpful. You know, you may have told much less prepared than I was last time, but it's quite nice. You know, there are 1,001 just these small little features that we could be adding that just make it slightly easier to use, and you know, each one is probably worth an hour's effort just to stream and share with you what I'm doing, how we think about it, talk through the process, reveal a bit more about just you know, all the stuff I just take so much for granted, because you know, I've been working on this project now for a long time. Yeah, how long is it? I've gone blank. What year is it? I think it's 2013, wasn't it? Yeah, 7 years. See, now the risk is I'm talking whilst I'm trying to copy and paste code between all these different nodes without making a copy and paste error. So, like I just did then. That's right, node input complete. Node input complete target filter. So I've changed the status catch complete nodes. Status node catch. Yeah, as I say, link nodes were slightly different, I seem to remember. Do they use the tree list? Oh, they do use the tree list. Ah, so they would work as well. Interesting. Okay. But let's have a look. Yeah, so complete node. Boom, it's now working. Catch node. Great, so that's now working. Now, that's good enough for sort of the first iteration. All that stuff I said right at the beginning about the search API, the fact, you know, when I search for something, it goes much deeper, if you like, in terms of why it finds that item, than just looking at its name. And that's all I was doing, or its label. So that's all I've done so far is for the catch status complete nodes, that filtering just looks at the label. That's probably good enough for the moment, but it doesn't do as deep a search as the normal search does. So I would like to look at a way of improving the search API, which at the moment you just give it a bit of text and it gives you back that list, to be able to give it other options, because other criteria. So search for nodes on a given tab containing this text, which we've got, you know, give us the nodes on this tab, and we've got give us the nodes with this bit of text. What we don't have is the combination of the two. There we are. So I've gone through, I've added it to all of these nodes. Hopefully that's a useful function. Hopefully people will appreciate it. One thing is, it might be nice to have a placeholder, bit of text. Do we have a... Yeah, I'm not going to add one. Everyone is just yet another bit of text to translate. So, you know, try to avoid adding them needlessly. Let's have a quick look as I'm here. Oh, before I go there, I'm going to a little smaller so I can see a bit more of it. Git checkout, new branch. What did we start with? Status filter nodes. So these are the files we've changed. So search box, we added that style mini. I'm going to stick with that for now. Obviously, until we release this, it's not a public API, so I can afford to fix it in the future. Tab info, we've removed a bunch of CSS we don't need anymore because we've added this new state to the search box CSS. Good. And then complete node, catch node, and status node all have that filter box added. Oops. Cool. So add filter box to status catch complete node lists. Good, good, good. I am just going to run grunt test editor. I think I failed to do this last time, which was a bit of a mistake. So that just runs JS hint against all the editor source code. No errors. And in terms of our test suite, that's all we have for the editor. We do have UI tests for the editor that the guys at Hitachi help maintain. I have to admit, I don't routinely run them, but they've done a great job at doing automated UI testing. A lot still to do, but the basic framework is there and it covers a lot of the basic features, but good stuff there. So let's get push to get the proper command. Oh, Ristomati, compact to replace mini. Of course it's compact. Oh, that's so much better. Oh man. Okay, here we go. Here's where we cheat because I can. So I'm just diving over to my other laptop because this is where I know. Ooh, let's try it. Yes. So we want to git rethink. Yeah, so I've got a whole bunch of custom git commands. Git rethink is that sort of buyer's remorse of, oops, I didn't mean to commit that. Uncommit, undo the last commit, but leave the changes. Git McFly is the undo the last commit and destroy those changes. And as my help says, you have to think, McFly, think. Yes. Anyway, let's go fix mini for compact. So what did we change? We added, there's a mini there. And I know I've already pushed this to a branch on GitHub, but I have no shame in force pushing a branch that I've just pushed myself, that I have no expectation that anyone else is going to be touching. You know, I would never force push to branches shared with other people. What else did we change? Tab info. Oh no, tab info, we just removed stuff. Search box, this is where the new stuff is. I'm going to call it, instead of mini, I'm going to call it compact. Oh, compact is such a better name. Good, thank you. Sometimes it just takes the act of committing a change and pushing it to GitHub to make you realise why it was wrong. That was everything, wasn't it? Search box, no, search box itself. Okay, I think that's everything. And yes, I should be testing it, but oh, there we are. So that says compact, happy with that. That says compact. Deleted that, that's good. That says compact, we're happy. What's it say? Compact, good. Yeah, naming things is the hardest thing. And also, any bit of new UI we add, any new label. I mean, it's one thing when it's an internal CSS name like that. When it's coming up with naming for labels on nodes, I mean, there are so many features to core nodes that we haven't added just because we can't work out the right language, the right words to present the feature. So let's try again. Add compact search box to status catch complete nodes. Yeah, that'll do us. Now we're gonna get push -f. Yes, I force pushed. Good. And then let's head over to our GitHub. Compare and pull request. Come on. And we go against dev. So that's an important point. Any pull request with new features must go against the dev branch. Yeah. So this is a new feature. Proposed changes. Adds a filter to catch status complete node UIs to help search node list. Now, a question just coming in over Slack rather than the Twitch chat. Dave. Yes, this could be applied, and to what I said a bit earlier, yes, this could apply to the link nodes. It's slightly more convoluted just because the link node, it's still a tree list, so in fact it should just drop in place. But because it's a tree list, it's got the collapsible sections, it might just need a little bit more, and I've been going for an hour. I want a cup of tea. So yes, it will apply to the link nodes, but that will follow later. Yes, I've run the relevant grunt tests, and there are no suitable tests for this. Right. So all that's done. Haha. There you go, Dave. I'm going to assign it straight to you. Or at least get you to review it. And we'll stick this in the 1.1 milestone just to make sure it doesn't get forgotten about. Pull request raised. There we go. Looks good to me. So yeah, there we go. What else can we talk about? I'm not going to spend too much time. I would just say, when we look at 1.1 and how close it is, I mean, there's always stuff cropping up that, of course, will go in if we get the time to get it in. This is the current milestone list of things we want to get in to 1.1 as it currently stands. So adding in examples to the core nodes. So we've got actually now, 3 pull requests adding in examples. They just take time to wade through because there's a lot of stuff to look at. Messaging API support of core nodes. So if you remember in 1.0 we added the node.done APIs, but we didn't update all the core nodes to use it. So this is a mega pull request which has been open for 6 months now, but it does change a lot of nodes, and I'm still wading through the review of those. Some are trivial, but it gets a little interesting, shall we say, when we get into things like the delay node and the join node, when the semantics of calling node.done is interesting when well, on paper trivial, but interesting cases when errors happen and you want to fail all the messages, or maybe it's just the one that caused the failure and all the others pass, and or so some more work to figure out some of the finer details. Otherwise, yeah, the pull request we just raised, and one that I noticed today has been bugging me when you control click. Oh, it's not too bad on this machine. Again, this is my newer, faster machine, but on my normal development laptop, it can take upwards of a second for this quick add dialog to appear. And I don't know if that's just because my day-to-day laptop is a slower machine, and it has a lot more nodes pre-installed. I mean, this is quite a clean install that doesn't have many extra nodes at all in. But I'm sure there's going to be some efficiencies to be had. Anyway, I've been going for an hour. I've done a pull request from end to end. Given 10 minutes before I started, I had no idea what I was going to be doing. I think that was quite successful. Pleased with that. I hope that was interesting. Again, these recordings only stick around for a couple of weeks on Twitch, but I am exporting them up to the Node-RED YouTube channel, although currently private, only because I haven't had the spare brain cycles to figure out how to set them up properly to get a proper playlist set up. Yeah, hope that was interesting. Next time, I do want to try and do this regularly. Last Monday was a washout, being a public holiday in the UK, and I know other places. But yeah, do this regularly. Hope it's interesting. So if there is anything particular you're interested in learning more about, do ping me, whether the chat here, in the forum, wherever. Just shout, say, here's something I'd be interested to see how I tackle or how I work on it. The fact we're trying to get the 1.1 release out pretty soon, beta this week hopefully, does mean I haven't got any big bits of development work lined up at the moment. I'm not in that phase, but give it a couple of weeks, a month or so, and there's basically, once the dust settles on 1.1, start thinking about 1.2. There's a whole bunch of epic features on the roadmap we want to start tackling. Tell you what, if I'm talking to you like this, I can click a button. Oh, there you go. You can see all of me. You don't need to see my screen. Yeah, so bigger features. Quite how that will work in streaming, I think it'll just be chipping away at it piece by piece, going from design to features. Yeah, like I say, if there are any other topics, so explaining more about the runtime, loading of nodes, lifecycle, yeah, those are all big meaty topics. I've partly thought around trying to do it as actually using writing code as the vehicle to explaining what I'm explaining. But yeah, if I can find a way to sort of tackle how do I walk through some of that stuff that's actually interesting and insightful rather than just a ramble. Yeah, and certainly do a couple sessions around that. Otherwise, I'll put a plug in. There's the OpenJS World Conference 3rd week of June, so in about 3 weeks' time. We will be doing what they're calling part of the Collaborator Summit. I don't know which day it is actually yet, but one of the days of the week of the 23rd, we'll be doing a 2-hour workshop of some sort around writing nodes. To be honest, I mean, it's an abstract we threw in at the very last minute. Haven't really figured out what we'll be doing, but if you're interested, whether it's a workshop in the sense of we teach you how to do it from scratch, or it's more collaborative, that sort of office hours, you've got something you're interested to talk about or stuck on, then you come and get a chance to talk to Dave and I. Yeah, still figuring that out, but keep an eye out for that if that's you're interested in. I'll also be doing a talk at the conference itself, which was a bit of a last minute ask whether I could do a talk, sort of a month after I had turned off the idea of doing one, so hadn't prepared anything. But now, because it's a virtual conference, I've actually got to provide the pre-recorded video of my talk by next Friday, which is but I'm sure it'll be fine. But yes, do have a look. It's free to register, free to attend. There'll be lots of really interesting talks all around Node, Node.js, JavaScript, the other projects in the foundation, me prattling on a little about Node-RED at some point. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. Go have a look at it, OpenJS world. Yeah, but really it's I'm doing this just to try and get more information out of my head and recorded and shared with you guys. So if we we'll certainly look at the runtime side for sure, and we have done two things around the editor. This is one of the realities is the runtime is actually remarkably stable. We don't do a lot in the runtime. A lot of the usability changes at the moment are in the editor and features in the editor. Not to say some of the bigger features we've got coming up, like pluggable message routing, is 100% runtime logic. So expect that pluggable message routing to feature heavily in these streams over the coming weeks. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking until my internet runs out. No, I'm going to go have a cup of tea. So there we go. Thanks, everyone. Hope that was enjoyed. Well, hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was informative. We've got another pull request out. So, and I will say, an hour after I finished last week, one of you guys raised a pull request that's now in 1.1, that your very first pull request. So you guys consider that the gauntlet has been thrown down. You have 1 hour from now if you want to beat the record. But no. In my mind, that kind of validated the whole reason for doing this, is to help you guys get involved, encourage you guys to jump in, help improve Node-RED, help drive it forward. So if there is some feature you're interested in, something you're interested in contributing towards, then jump on Slack, come chat to Dave and myself in the forum. We always prefer just to have a chat around ideas before pull requests arrive, but equally, if a pull request arrives and it's not totally offensive, then we give it its fair consideration, and we will always work with you to get things into the shape we think they should be in. Excellent. See, I've prattled on for another 5 minutes after I said I was going to stop. I'm going to stop now. Have a good evening. Have a good afternoon, whatever time you guys are in. And until next time. Bye.